Okay. So today I would like to introduce Dexter Dine. We'll be talking about his album 27 Short Songs. Dexter is a fantastic guitarist and electronic musician, also a burgeoning saxophone player who plays quite an array of music, classical composition, some quite experimental and majestic field recording, manipulation, and yeah, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this album because I have some questions and just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I just want to start with this little write-up that I wrote in response to listening to this album the first time through. So there's ghosts and machines, or are there? How could there be? I sighed, I wept on the shores of 1,000 placeless smiles, teeth glimmering like the Cheshires. Then the ghost awoke in me, and these new eyes perceived the infinite stairs on which I wound, no longer passing through endless Kansases, shortness of breath transformed into the one long inhale from the edge of the universe. Angelic murmurings became a whisper, and without warning spoke to me. Fly to the lands of Abime, and find the bloom of night. Fly to the heart of time, and see the one without eyes. There the great cosmic body without organs shifted its starry light to at last smile upon this great unfolding, the wondrous ghost of life, playfully haunting its kin with the ancient drama of this entropic vi.
That's so good. I love that. I also truly Abime. I didn't know how to pronounce that word, which is the title.
I didn't know either, but I love it.
Yeah.
And I have questions about the titles, but I want to open it up to anything that you preliminarily want to say about this album for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the context is I made this, I think, in 2021. I was probably working on it from like maybe winter 2020, but really mostly spring and summer of 2021. And so re-listening to it, it is just like, I think, especially because there's just so many pieces, it's just such a capsule. It brought back so many memories, and I also have so many questions about what the hell I was doing. And as I've said, I like lost all the Pro Tools files. So I really wanted to go through and find some of like what I was sampling, but some of it I remember.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal when you like lose the drafting content, and then
yes,
it's like you can't remember, but
mm-hmm.
kind of like you slowly kind of try to put the pieces back together and make sense of it in your own way in a new lens.
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah, but some of it is very clear to me, and
yeah, right.
I feel like especially like the field recordings, I really remember. Like, I think I truly threw in everything I recorded on my phone for probably like a year before. Like,
yeah, I noticed this with field recordings. For me, at least, anytime I take a field recording, I remember the moment that I did that recording like more clearly than any other moment. Something about the intentionality of it, of like pressing record, puts you in this present mind state, and then it just stays with you. It's like like you create double synaptic pathways or something with it.
Yes, no, it's like smelling, and because like some of it, like I'll remember if there's like this amazing sound, I want to capture it, but like a lot of it is just I'm walking, I'm going to record, and I would never remember that if I didn't like hit play on my stupid device.
All right, so I'll start with the questions that I have. The first one that sticks out the most, because even before listening to it all the way through, is the thing that jumps out is the titles and the evocativeness of the titles. And Yeah, there's so many words I was unfamiliar with, and
I'm gonna look at the titles.
look at the list. Yeah, yeah. Just wondering if you have anything to say about that and where those come from, and the poeticness of it.
I mean, I think I always just have like a running list of little words and phrases, and I usually, I think it's something about the maximalist like nature of having 27, where I usually like really whittle it down. But this, I feel like it was like every little thing that I was like, just like going on the internet, like going down rabbit holes of things, like just throwing everything in. But it's also just like little snippets of text from books I was reading, just everything. And I also think like I gave myself some more, I feel like I'm normally on a project, I am a lot more intentional about the titles and like think of it, I don't know, and from a few different ways, where here it like acted as lyrics or something where there weren't going to be any lyrics. So I wanted to be a bit more expressive or like set a mood.
It definitely works in that way. Yeah. And yeah, because you write songs with lyrics too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could sense that, because I kind of do the same thing with writing these little sort of snippets of things down, like words that feel evocative. And it feels like such a great compilation of that. I've made books before where I've just like written down phrases and words that I really liked.
Yeah.
And
I love that. Yeah. I wish I still like, I have like up on my shelf here, like all these notebooks that I made during college that are just like full of this, and now it's all on my phone. And like the worst part about that, besides that it just like sucks, is that I'll like delete things. And so this was my main problem with like trying to get back in my headspace, was like I had this one master document on my phone that I was editing up until the minute I decided I was finished with it. And so instead of like being able to see my work, I kind of just saw what I had at the end. So I have to get my shit together. I can't keep doing that, because it's nice to look back sometimes.
It is cool. I think my favorite title, that's quite confusing to me, is Pink Helens. What is Pink Helens? Do you remember at all?
I feel like I think that's probably mine too. That one, it started, I was going up to Wesleyan and was gonna perform in like a version of Cage's what's it called? Electro, like Musa Circus. And I wrote this, like it was like a 20-minute piece, with like, it was flute samples, probably like an SEM like recording or something of Peter playing, that I just like made into a drony flute, and some like manipulated vocal samples, and it's all in there, but like it's condensed into 1 minute. But it was all like this max patch, and I was just playing with colors on the max patch and found this like beautiful pink. And I don't know, I think, I mean, the Helens is definitely coming from Mount St. Helens. I think I was just thinking of like a pink volcano.
It's one of those great like juxtapositions of things that don't belong together necessarily, because there's such a level of ambiguity, and that's great poetry. And it's when two words just come together and they're just like so poetic.
The other one I liked is Nazumpes, which was truly just a typo. Or like, or I think I started a Pro Tools session and I don't know what it started as, but I definitely just hit some wrong keys and I was like, this is perfect. So sometimes it happens.
none of the write-ups that I've done for all of these albums were so directly inspired from the titles, which is interesting because I used a lot of the titles like in this.
Yeah, I loved hearing it.
Yeah, it was really nice. But yeah, I'm sure we could talk about the poetics of this forever. But I have a lot, not a lot, a few more questions that have depth, I think. My second question is so there's a lot of titles because there's 27 tracks. And they're all really short. But what I found most striking is almost all of them transition incredibly smoothly.
Yeah.
So when I'm listening to it, I'm like, like it just sounds like it's all part of like, one session that you did. And then did you decide to just cut them up?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Not at all. Yeah. Can you go into that?
Yeah, no, it was 27 distinct sessions. And I mean, from like the get-go, I had so much fun doing this because it was just like a giant puzzle. And like building it in real time. Like I think I started probably with like there were maybe like 4 or 5 like kind of loops that I like had from the beginning, and I knew like I don't know, I think like the first track, those 2 like the Neomon tracks, maybe like I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 more. Pink Collins also, like I had them, I knew sort of where I wanted them to be, and then we just built from there. But I did always know I wanted it to be 27 because I liked the idea of, it's a great number. It's like divisible by 3, so could do 3 parts. So it's kind of 3 parts where they all transition into each other. And I think I should have made the breaks a little longer in between because
so there's like part 1, the first 9 tracks transition smoothly into another, and then interesting,
and then 10 to 18 and 19 to 27.
It's so interesting. This is kind of one of my later questions, but like, because compositionally, like, the intention of that you put into like these things versus the perceptual effect. What I found the most sectionally like definitive is track 7's Sleeper's Bay, when that comes in, because there's this kind of like piano striking. It feels like we went somewhere else. But I really want to listen now, re-listen with division. But like my perception of it was like, track 7 is like, okay, we're starting a new thread here.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Because I really feel like I built it to be, those like a kind of beginning to end 3 times. But then, listening through, I definitely did find like this, I think like the piano and like a bunch of like the percussion stuff was like, they were much later additions. It was like all like August of 2021, because I was still at SEM, but I didn't go to Ostrava. And so I had like the run of the place and just was like recording like crazy in there. And I also like, I knew I was going to leave SEM like a month or 2 later. And so I was just like, this is my last chance to like record everything I wanted. So I think, I don't know if it maybe just like, I probably just had like those first 6 tracks so settled, but there were some later ones I felt more iffy about and was like, well, if I just keep on adding shit to them, they'll. And so I feel like that's probably when like the piano is introduced and there's a thread from there. But
because it's just like compositional processes, they just have so many layers, like you were saying, like with drafting and redrafting different things you wish you could go back, because yeah, you draft an original plan and then all of a sudden, a new idea comes in and it maybe distorts the original plan a little bit. But I mean, that's what makes it so great and interesting to keep coming back to, because you can, that's why I like, talking about this, because it just, gives me and listeners a sense of intimacy of what's going on, peeling back these layers and listening in a different way.
Yeah. And there are a lot of layers on some of these.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the sounds that you used, because you mentioned the piano. But there's a nagging question with the transitions in the contained ones. Because they're really elegant. And I'm wondering if, because I haven't listened this intently and closely, if between the tracks there's any of the same sounds, or they're all contained with their own.
No, there's definitely overlap.
There's okay.
Yeah, but I think everything, I would finish a track, or not finish a track, but yeah, I think the transitions almost entirely came after the compositions.
It's like you melded them together.
Yeah.
What did you do?
And so
the field recordings, that was the kind of glue? What?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of places, but also I think, I did have 27 different pieces to work with, that I could find things that just really smoothly, melodically transitioned in between. Some of them I was listening, I was still it could have, I don't know. I feel like I listened to it so many times, so I shouldn't be critical, but I mean, it's something I've done for I love transitions in between pieces. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, that really
my favorite part of the process. So
that's really definitely there, and it's really
cool. And so,
but yeah, so if you want to talk more about the sounds that you used, because I was curious if it was sampled piano from something else, but I guess it was piano recordings that you made yourself.
Yeah.
How much was sampled versus sampled from other?
Yeah, I'd say for the melodic elements, because I think all the field recording stuff was mine. For the melodic stuff, I would say it's probably 70% sampled to 30% me playing. And that, again, I feel like it's the titles where listening through, I feel like it's just, I'm going through this year that is so much of it is just a snippet of a movie, or a bunch of songs, which I shouldn't say because it's probably not great, but mostly people that would be fine with me sampling their material. It's on my wall here.
Because there's also a good degree of processing that you're doing, I think.
I think that I don't think that you could really. I would be so impressed if anyone knew what anything was from.
It's fantastically nebulous, because it's it's not it makes me question. I'm are these samples? They're just processed enough where I can't clearly say that this is probably a sample from something else, other piece, and they're not too processed either.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some of the techniques? Because I know, did you work in Max at all for this?
Yeah, it's a lot of Max, but I don't think there's anything that crazy I'm doing. It's a lot of just time stretching and multi delays, variable delays. That it's a lot of recording the variable delays and then catching tiny little instances where the delay is shifting, and then maybe stretching that out.
Cool.
But I think it still does leave the character, the sample in there. But yeah, That's
No, it's really balanced.
yeah.
I'm wondering, the theme that I kind of caught on to, like the second time through listening. And I'm curious about your conscious relationship to it and your intentionality. Is this theme of like instability of pitch that comes up a lot?
Yeah.
Like a lot of things are sliding,
Yes.
constantly, like, and moving in pitch. And that's why, like Sleeper's Bay is such a striking piece to me, because suddenly the piano is like very much hitting these notes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
general pitch instability, like, is that how does that? Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely love it, and it's something I seek out. I definitely, it's not like I'm going in it,
Mhm.
or I don't think there's intention as much as just I gravitate towards those moments and then end up capturing them more. But
Yeah.
yeah, um, there are those few pieces, like I can't remember titles, but like I think they're like track 17, Barn and Pine Tree Line, which are after each other.
Yeah.
17 and 18,
Mhm.
they have like really pitchy little recorder that I was just going like woo, 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 and like getting like really slowing it down, and I really love those recordings.
Oh yeah, it's so
But
satisfying.
yeah,
Yeah, I really like it's like, yeah, just microtonal in this way that's not too like overly um structured or intellectual. I think
yeah,
maybe it's like kind of guitar, just because the thing I love so much about guitar is like the way that you just bend pitches so easily.
hmm
Just get so much expression out of that.
yeah. I think it's just coming from following like the things actually. Yeah, I would say there's not much like intellectual microtonal stuff as much as
Yeah,
just
yeah,
I'm following what my ear enjoys hearing.
and
And
it's great. It's great because you can really hear that you enjoy this, which
yeah.
is nice. Like,
Oh, I appreciate that.
yeah, it's like, oh, like this is something that like fix for him. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. um, uh, well, okay. I was trying to make this transition smoother. Speaking of transitions,
Yeah.
it didn't quite
Sorry.
come to me, but like there was a moment of humor, of laughing, and I'm curious what role like humor played in this for
Yeah.
you, especially. I find the last track really funny.
But I feel like it's a little it's a really abrupt transition, right?
It's quite yeah, there you go, quite the
Yeah.
and it actually is really effective because it's surprising, and I think for me when things are like surprising, like that's kind of a form of humor to me,
hmm
um but there's also like sheep and structure.
Yeah.
That's like the
uh,
funniest track.
uh,
And it's 23 seconds long.
it has the ba thing samples. Yeah. Yeah. I think there were a few tracks where I had gone to like a farm and just recorded
Yeah.
some sheep and some cows, and it really left an impression on me. But yeah, I don't know. I hate listening to my music and finding it to be too serious. And I think this project did I don't know. I was definitely in a goofy mood for a lot of it.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're doing such like really cool, like um deep sort of compositional processes, which can be really serious, but you're just so lighthearted about it. It's just like
Oh,
it's really refreshing to hear music that uses humor in a way that's like not over the top, where it's like intentionally humor, but it just has this whimsical quality that is seeing itself really authentically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also, I was listening to it today, and I think I have like 2 or 3 samples in there of laughter, which
Yeah.
I found to be very well. I have one of Peter laughing,
Oh my God.
and it's so creepy. I think it's like I super distorted it, but uh,
Yeah, there's some really like creepy, distorted ones too. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
creepiness. Like the
yeah,
creepiness too. Like somehow you blend creepiness with humor.
yeah.
Because that my first take was creepiness. The whole ghosts and machines. Like
Hmm.
has like a, it's like, oh, like, there's something creepy here, but like,
But yeah, I feel like it's more like as I feel like that year is so COVID-y. It's just like outside a lot more than I would have been, and I think it was just
hmm.
I I think I find nature in general to be creepy and funny.
Yeah, dude,
I think those are 2 of the major themes I just gravitate to. Just like
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I love the incorporation of nature into it with the field recordings,
hmm
and yeah, the attempt to like mirror that and work with that. I think that's amazing. With the field recordings, I had the sense in the last listen through um, that they became like gradually more prominent. I'm wondering, like they didn't feel. I mean, they're very overt in like the first track, but then they
hmm
feel to be like muted. But then it seems like they like began to emerge more
yeah.
in the second half. Like,
I think it is also I think I did have like more like I started out with a few older ideas,
yeah,
and then it definitely I feel like the album becomes a little more like uh not like biographical like I I was definitely like towards the end there are like some consecutive tracks where I was like all of this is happening like or I made all of these like June, July, August, and I think maybe I was just enjoying that more at the time. I think it was definitely just what I was gravitating towards. And it is funny. I think the only field recording that the first track has some sample field recording, which is the title is like 1975 recording of waves, and I don't know what where I found that, but I loved
yeah.
how shitty
Oh, it's
those
so good.
waves sound. But which I guess is a weird way to start it off because nothing else like that comes back. But yeah,
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah. Um, and I like that it's like so it's the most direct track because like everything else is like really poetic and this is like 1975 recording
yeah,
of voice.
yes,
That's all it is.
yeah,
Well, that's not all it is. Yeah, I do
yeah.
want to hear
But there's
more about the individual tracks because you said that they're loops and I can hear that in some of them, but I'm wondering like um the way that you work with loops contained within these tracks, because I work with loops a lot too, and I'm wondering like, are these like, are you working with like several different loop layers that are like maybe non-recursive, or is it kind of conceptualized as like kind of like a larger loop structure, whichever?
so I think it's usually my starting point, or definitely for I would say 90% of these is like one melodic loop, and
Yeah.
sometimes like I would do an overlapping field recording loop like pretty immediately. Like I think the first track is a good example where it's like the
Yeah.
wave loop is happening and that like da, 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 da,
Hmm.
which again I don't know where it was from, but yeah, those were definitely the starting point, and then uh, just seeing where it takes me. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think a lot of it I do. I love letting things get out of sync.
So yeah, out of
But
get out of sync with that was what I'm curious about. Um,
yeah, and I think I like doing that more when the tracks are a bit longer because can have more time to develop. But
yeah,
it definitely still feels
it's
it
really
happens a little bit.
it's really interesting because they're so short. Uh, it's like the time to process that there are actually loops going on. It's such a small
Yeah.
window,
Hmm.
which makes repeated listenings of this really cool because you start to unveil the fact that the layers of looping is going on because it's like you're kind of teasing like you don't have enough time to really proceduralize this before you move on to the next sort of next sort of thing.
Yeah, those the 20-second tracks. It's stretching it to call some of those loops where it's like maybe it's repeating twice, but
yeah, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk about this forever. I have so many questions. So we should.
No, I'm really enjoying just I feel like I'm learning about this too, or getting back in. So
Yeah.
it's great.
Um,
Oh yeah, I'd say the last thing that went on record is I really had like the best time making the album cover because um,
great. Yeah.
I spent forever like making this dried flower bouquet and like choosing it, and then I scanned it, and
Amazing.
I was just fucking loved how it looked. And I also made the font at the bottom, but
Yeah, the font is really nice. Yeah, it really captures that sort of creepiness of nature.
Yeah,
The colors are really nice. I really liked editing the promo.
yeah. Oh, the promo looked so good. Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
The color scheme was so fun and yeah.
Yeah, I made a mess of that scanner. Crushed a lot of flowers.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's see, maybe last question. And maybe you don't have an answer for this, and maybe you'll have an answer in a few years. Who knows? For you, is there anything that comes out in terms of like the symbolism in relationship to your own, development and growth and processes and what you were going through and what this sort of reflects back to you and insights that maybe you kind of had by virtue of creating this and narratives that kind of revealed themselves in any way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I do feel like I don't know how how much of my personal life to get into here, but I feel like it was a moment that summer, especially of just I felt like a lot was ending. Just yeah, a lot in my personal life. It was I feel like just the most intense probably year of my life, or just like the most things happened, like events. And I think there really is something that I just threw everything I recorded and read and watched. Like I made some crazy document to, I don't know, like keep a hold of what I had at that time. So I felt like it was maybe slipping away. But I definitely did not think about that until like revisiting it in the last few weeks. But it also, yeah, I think it was also I kind of remembered it as much more of a bummer than it was. Like listening to it, I thought I was going to be sad, and I was like extremely happy. So
Yeah, I can feel like the emotion, you know, in a lot of it. And I think that like playfulness and whimsicalness too is really delightful, because kind of like yeah, the importance of play in processing emotions, and you know, just making light of things. Yeah. And just, you know, the whole like kind of retrospective, like the way that you just are pulling together all of these things that you've been, you know, recording and intaking, and it's like a, you know, a living kind of journal.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's overwhelming, and I mean that in a good way. Like it's,
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah.
like, whoa,
Totally.
so much here. Because there is like,
Yeah.
just there's just so much, and but it's all meaningful to you, you know. It's not like, it's not random. It's yeah.
Yeah. No, it's overwhelming to me too. I can't imagine making this thing. So
Yeah, I'm wondering, just one thing that jumps out for me is like talking about nature, and what this sort of the making of this, if it marked anything with like a change in your relationship to nature, like the way that you saw, or if you were like tapping more into nature. Because I find this for myself, like, you know, with especially endings, things that end and that fall apart, like nature is the greatest teacher for understanding those things, you know, because you have these cyclical cycles of fall.
Yeah.
And when going through things like that, I always find myself getting closer and closer to nature and wanting to engage in dialogue with it more.
Yeah. I think there's something about like, I feel like I'm constantly discovering things for the first time when it's actually, it's everything is cyclical around me. I've lived basically in the Northeast my entire life. But I feel like, I don't know, every month I'm just like, what the fuck is happening outside? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's constant rediscovery.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, it marked anything significantly new, but I probably felt like there were significant new developments in my relationship with nature, as I do, I don't know, all the time.
You mentioned that you were like, you know, out spending a lot more time outside and field recording because of
pandemic.
Which that's what made me kind of think of that is
I don't know, but I don't know, it's making me want to go outside. It's been so cold here, but
well, I mean, clearly there's like amazing sort of nature within that's also blooming at night for you. With this, it's like such a great depiction of like an internal nature, and that dialoguing that internal nature with the external nature, just bringing those two together, and that's making art. Right.
Oh, thank you. I feel like you've been so kind about this. It's
I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I'm sorry it took this long to put it out, but I feel like there's some sort of poeticness in that too. You know, it's like it had to hibernate or something. For a while before it was
definitely ready. No, it's perfect.
Especially like you had said, like I think you said like something about almost anticipating a certain sadness with listening to it. That
Mhm.
enough time had passed where
Yeah.
you were more removed from that sadness.
Yeah. It was just funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. It's like it just becomes absurd.
Yeah.
Like the more far removed we get from things, in a good way, time. Yeah, just the time that we have with it. Yeah, yeah, man.
Cool.
Thanks for. Do you have anything else to add? I feel like we covered a lot.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this, forever, and I look forward to talking about it more as I keep listening to it and
Yeah.
uncovering things for myself. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for making time today and for
Yeah, of course.
making this music and doing, following your authenticity in it and just doing what you love and sharing that with everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean. Yeah.
All right. Until next time.